Since the war in Ukraine broke out, a man is taking more and more place, to the point of being a direct threat to both Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. When the war had officially started in February 2022, men under the orders of the Kremlin were already present in Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, to assassinate Zelensky. It was an operation prepared by the Wagner Group long before the war. The men of the paramilitary group returned from Africa to Ukraine. They seemed to return on holidays to see their family, to see their friends, to rest. In reality, they prepared their next blow. Their goal was simple: for these soldiers disguised as civilians to assassinate Zelensky, to destabilize Ukraine and the Ukrainian army, to facilitate the job for the Russian army, in return a very large bounty on Zelensky's head, and especially a status of war hero if the mission was successful was waiting them. The stakes were high, especially for one man. This is the story of the Wagner Group and its founder Yevgeny Prigozhin. If before the war you've never heard of this group, it's because to this day, and despite the fact that Prigozhin admitted the fact that he founded Wagner, the Wagner Group does not exist as an entity in Russia because paramilitary societies are forbidden. You won't be able to find any entity registered in the name Wagner in Russia. The fact that this entity does not officially exist allows Russia to deny any link with it. When the war in Ukraine started, 400 soldiers of Wagner were already in Kiev, and between 2,000 to 4,000 of them were all over Ukraine, especially in Donetsk and Luhansk for sabotage and assassination missions according to the Times. The Wagner Group acts all over the world and successfully in Ukraine, Mozambique, Sudan, Mali, Syria. They gain political influence for Russia and serve the interests of Russia. Unlike the European allies, the Russians with Wagner don't care about human rights, their image or possible accusation of war crimes, because they don't officially represent Russia. This is what makes them attractive to the leaders of African countries. Wagner and Russia do not lecture them on human rights or gay marriage. They simply come to do business. Wagner is a PMC, a private military company. In fact, it's a mercenary company like others. There is nothing new. They have existed for a very long time. We can talk about Blackwater, who became Academy, Vinelcorp, G4S, or Airscan. The only difference between these entities and Wagner is that Wagner does not exist in the eyes of the Russian law, unlike other groups that are registered in their respective countries and meet the requirements and laws in those countries. According to Wikipedia, Dmitry Yutkin, a veteran of the two Chechen wars, is the founder of the Wagner Group. Nobody really knows where the name Wagner comes from. Some speculate that the name Wagner comes from Yutkin's call sign. Yutkin is supposed to have selected the name after the German musician Richard Wagner because of his love of the Third Reich, and Wagner was Adolf Hitler's favorite composer. The foundation of the group and its creation date are unclear. However, in September 2022, Prigozhin officially admitted to have founded and led the Wagner Group, which began as a battalion participating since May 2014 on the Russian side in the war in the Donbass. Yutkin may be one of the founders, but the real leader is him, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin stated in an interview that like many other businessmen, he went to training fields where the Cossacks gathered to form a force that would go and protect the Russians. When the genocide of the Russian people of Donbass began, he's talking about the war in Ukraine between pro-Russians and Ukrainian forces that began in 2014. He explained the fighters he found there did not suit him, and he decided to form a group on his own. From that moment, on May 1st, 2014, a group of patriots was born, which later acquired the name of Battalion Level Tactical Group BTG Wagner. Hackers were able to find information about Prigozhin and Wagner. What they found is shocking. The company is an empire. There are almost 400 companies within its holding, Wagner Group. The Russian online media Dossier Center, an opposition media founded by the dissident Mikhail Khodorkovsky, collected a veritable treasure trove of information on the Prigozhin galaxy. More than 1 million internal documents, the Wagner leaks, were recovered by a group of anonymous hackers and perfectly exploited by Dossier Center. They allow to measure the extent of Yevgeny Prigozhin activities and influence. The companies managed by Prigozhin obviously include Wagner, but also online media, gold or diamond mines, oil extraction companies, consulting or political engineering companies, a troll farm for social media, restaurants, hotels, a chocolate factory, an industrial butchery, and even car washes, to which must be added shell companies probably used to continue trading in the West despite international sanctions. This empire is of capital importance for Putin, especially in Ukraine, when in 2014 Putin used the Wagner Group to take over Crimea. The United States and its allies could not know where the soldiers without insignia came from, but even if they knew, they could not blame Putin, because in Russia, private military companies are illegal. So, for Putin to use a military company like Wagner, which is registered in Argentina and does not exist in the eyes of the Russian law, is the jackpot. On February 20, 2014, troops entered Crimea. They provided security at checkpoints and borders, surrounding Ukrainian military bases and taking control of other strategic facilities. The Russian media denied for a long time that they were Russian, calling them the Little Green Men. Wagner has since 2014 experienced several successes. After the capture of Crimea and sending soldiers in the Donbass, Putin used this new tool to send soldiers to Syria in 2015 to help his very good friend Bashar al-Assad. Wagner has also been deployed in many African countries that Prigozhin has managed to infiltrate by surfing on the hatred of the West and the coups. When an African soldier makes a coup and he is afraid that his coup will get couped, it is quite natural that they go to Wagner, because in addition to being cooperative, Wagner is not very careful about the actions of the regime. They let them do what they want. No human rights, no democracy, they just fulfill their missions in exchange for money and resources. Most recently in Bakhmut, Ukraine, we saw the unwavering determination of Prigozhin, who is willing to do anything to win. The Wagner Group went to recruit prisoners who served as cannon fodder in Ukraine. The defense and security analyst Professor Michael Clark explained the crazy Wagner human wave attack tactics, with squadrons of mostly prison recruits sent in one after another under the threat of execution. Despite suffering devastating losses of up to 80%, Professor Clark described how the conscripts keep coming forward, like something out of a zombie film, because if they go back, they get shot. This is a completely crazy strategy. Mikhailo Podolyak confirms that 80% of the 50,000, which means 40,000 soldiers sent by Wagner, were either dead or injured. This crazy strategy aims to make Prigozhin a strong public figure in Russia. His numerous declarations against the Russian army aiming at embarrassing them in their failures to promote his Wagner Group, as well as his political ambitions, which would threaten Putin, but also the highest ranked staff in the Russian army, which has moreover pushed the Russian army to delay or even not to send any more ammunition to Wagner, which has caused the anger of Prigozhin and the revelation that there is indeed an internal war on the Russian side. According to the Russian independent investigative site Meduza, Yevgeny Prigozhin has increasing cooperation with the A Just Russia for Truth party. The party's leader, Sergei Mironov, and Prigozhin previously reached a rapprochement, according to the source, which the Washington-based Institute for the Study of War described as a growing relationship. with Prigozhin taking more and more space, to the point of directly threatening Putin. He is slowly positioning himself as Putin's direct successor and legitimate candidate for the presidency of the Russian Federation. However, the fact that he's taking up more and more space could also lead to his downfall by driving Putin mad. In any case, what follows will be interesting.